What is going on, everybody? Happy divisional round week here in the city of brotherly love. Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show. Guys, do yourself a favor, do us a favor the same way we start each and every one of our live streams. Make sure to check us out on Twitter at DSM_Media. Smash that follow button and then check out the link tree in our bio. It will take you to every other social media platform we are available on. If you guys want to be interactive throughout tonight's show, like my man D-Rab is doing right now, make sure to check out the YouTube link specifically. It's the best and only spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here with us. I am 1/3 of your host tonight, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. And down below, our man, Parcero, is back with us tonight, breaking down this Rams-Eagles divisional round matchup. Drop your comments, drop your score predictions, drop everything you guys want to get into tonight. We'll get to as many comments as possible. Fellas, happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, Scotty. It's your favorite day of the week. And what is going on?
What's good, man? Just got home from work myself. Happy to be here with you guys. Happy to be here with Parcero, JP.
Long time
down there. Hey, what are we going by? I see you got JP, you got the full government down there, and you also got the Parcero Philly. What are we feeling, man?
I don't know, man. I just got laid off. I got to figure that out myself.
Let's not laugh at that on air, okay?
It's all good. I
laughed, so I felt like I could laugh.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding, man. Me and Parcero definitely talked about that and shot the shit about it. But definitely happy to have you back here with us, man. Here on DSM, talk some birds, tonight. Some good vibes
my
here.
Phillies pregame show co-host down there, man. Scotty's got like a glass of bourbon.
Hey, let's not push it too far. It's just wine. It's wine. It isn't.
He's classy.
Bourbon would be another level on hump day, man. That would be another level.
It's a good way to start the middle of the week, brother. But I'm waiting to see Pastor Rems get up in here. Send him that link.
Yeah.
We got a lot to chat about because we left Monday's night show talking about the potential divisional round matchup for the Eagles being either the Minnesota Vikings or the LA Rams. And the LA Rams went to Arizona, hosted the games in that capacity, and took care of business, man. Absolutely dog walk Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. So Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Sean McVay, they get to come to Philadelphia. 55% chance of snow on Sunday now. I know it's a couple days away, middle of the week, but that we're going to talk about that as well. The environment, the cold, the weather. Bring it on, man. I mean, Scotty, this is very similar to the same boat as I was in to start Packers week, which is just like, this isn't unknown to me. We can't sit here. We're not playing hypotheticals. This isn't as if the Vikings won and we haven't faced the Vikings this year. And there's a lot we can discuss and look at and pick apart. No, we lined it up, as Martian would say. We lined that shit up already. We went to SoFi Stadium and the Eagles didn't just beat the LA Rams a few weeks ago. Now, granted, it's a different Rams team.
Yeah.
Different Rams. I'll give them credit. They've been playing very well. They went into SoFi Stadium and kicked the dog shit out of Sean McVay and the LA Rams without Devontae Smith. 37-20. If you guys don't remember, it's a big reason why Saquon Barkley was in the race to break Eric Dickerson's rushing title, because the man went for over 300 all-purpose yards, 270-plus rushing touchdowns in that game. It wasn't close outside the first two drives. The Eagles defense turned the Rams over. I'm in the same boat, man. Like, if you're a Rams fan, there's nothing you're going to look at me, you're going to tell me, you're going to comment tonight that's going to get me on the edge of my heels. And once again, Scotty, I'll throw this to you first. The Eagles seem like the team that are put on upset alert early on in the week. They're the one team people are looking at going, I don't know if I want to play the Rams right now. Fuck that. Anyone can come get it, and especially the Rams right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel you. And, there is part of me that also just wonders if the Packers are better than the Rams, like, altogether. Like, I'm going to be completely transparent, because the way the Packers run the football, Josh Jacobs a totally different animal. The Packers defense, that's a top 10 unit that we were looking at on Sunday as well. So I think the Packers were very well rounded. I think the argument there is when you get to Jordan Love and Matthew Stafford, there might be a little discussion there. But no, I do overall feel the same way you do about it. I guess when you look at the grand scheme of what's left in the postseason, I guess you could argue that, like, do you know what I mean? Like, the Texans aren't beating the Chiefs this weekend. I guess the other one would be the Commanders and Lions, and like the Ravens and Bills. That's not an upset for my money, right? Like that's even. So unless you're picking the Commanders over the Lions, like I don't know. I guess you could make an argument whether or not that's crazier. But
I get it. But I'll make an argument for you that the Rams are the worst team left in the postseason right now. There's an argument to be made. Parcera.
Let's start the JP, man.
Yeah, we got it from D-Rab. They don't make me nervous. They clearly don't make me nervous. I don't think they make Scotty nervous. First glance, any nerves? And what's your opinion on the LA Rams coming to this match?
Oh, I'm super nervous, guys. Like, come on, like this is the greatest show on turf, Rams, right? No, guys, this is not.
Yeah, we going.
This is not Torrey Holt. This is not Isaac Bruce, guys. This Rams team, look, the one saving grace that they may have is, yes, that passing attack when it's on. Sure. It is on. They have some good weapons. The pass rush seems to have come along well for the Rams as the season's gone on.
Yeah.
But, I was just talking about this with Dylan before we went live, is the Rams didn't go into the playoffs like, scorching the earth. Listen, it was a neutral site last week in Arizona, which, thoughts and prayers to everyone out in LA. I want to throw that out there. But they took care of business, and kudos to them. But this is a different beast. You're coming into Philadelphia. Dylan just laid it out, 50% snow. You're going to tell me that a team from Los Angeles, on top of the fact that they play in a dome, are going to come in here without a running game and are going to win a game? Like, come on. Number one, our defense, we've seen how this young defense has been flying around. And the defense is a big reason why we beat the Green Bay Packers last week, right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at the offense, are you going to slow down Saquon Barkley? Because you didn't do that in the dome that you talked about, right?
I think that is the starting point, right? Like Saquon Barkley, like how are they stopping him after what we saw in week 12?
I mean, dude, like he was quiet last week and he still had 119 yards rushing.
Yeah.
You still have Jalen Hurts, who's always going to be a threat on the ground, which I do want to talk about his arm in this episode here as well. But overall, just looking at mapping out what this matchup could look like, I just don't see how the Rams could sustain anything through 4 quarters for them to beat us on Sunday. That's just how I look at it.
I agree. And to take both of what you guys said, man, like to Scotty's point about the Packers, arguably probably the Packers are a better football team than the LA Rams. Like I'll say that. And
I agree.
Matthew Stafford, Jordan Love, right? The weapons all around when you're talking about Puka and Cooper Kupp, who for some reason, I don't know, like if him and Stafford have some sort of internal struggle going on right now, but he's just not getting the ball or being targeted like we're used to seeing. Kyron Williams is not Josh Jacobs, but that offense is the focal point of the Rams. They're built differently. Last week, you saw a Green Bay Packers defense, top 10 unit, right? Really lock up these Eagles, receivers and give Jalen Hurts a little bit of trouble passing the ball, right? They kept them in the game for a large majority of it. It was never really more than a 10-point game. The Rams are different. The Rams are built on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense played incredibly well against Minnesota.
Yeah.
Good news for you. The Eagles' offensive line is not the Minnesota Vikings offensive line. Jalen Hurts and his lower half is not Sam Darnold and his lower half. You're just not going to have that kind of pass rush, that kind of luck. You're not going to get close to Jalen or sniff Jalen all that time, all those many times like you did against Stafford. But yeah, I kind of want to compare and contrast what they did to Minnesota and what we did to them back in week 12. Because to Parcero's point, the Rams, won 5 of 6 going into the postseason, then won their first postseason game. They're winning ball games. But to tie it all together, the focal point that people are scared of or nervous of coming into this matchup is the offense. Since the Eagles kicked the dog shit out of them, the Rams have scored 21 against the Saints, 44 against the Bills, tip of the cap, 12 against the 49ers, 19 against the Jets, 13 against the Cardinals, and 25 in a loss against Seattle at home in the final week of the regular season. This offense, to Parcero's point, is not the greatest show on turf. It's not going scorched earth right now, and they're not that high flying as people are making them out to be right now.
Yeah.
But it's also you're talking about regular season games. So this is the one thing that everyone always talks about, and everyone likes to bring this up too with Jalen Hurts and the difference between the regular season and the postseason. Offenses change a little bit when it comes to the postseason.
Yeah.
the most balanced attacks will be at the end of the run. When it comes to Super Bowl, you will see a team that can run the ball, but also can throw the ball as well. You're gonna have to make some clutch throws when it matters the most. And for the Rams, like you just talked about it, those games, yes, they did win. They still have Sean McVay, they still have Matthew Stafford. That should be able to get you those wins. But the way they've won does not bode any confidence for them to come into Philadelphia in the divisional round to beat us in our home turf.
Yeah, it's matchups, right? It's all about matchups, and I think that's the big thing here is like, yes, Sam Darnold was holding the ball on Monday Night Football. He was getting pressured. He got sacked 9 times. They were dominating that Vikings offensive line. But the Eagles' offensive line, their rushing attack, all of the above, you don't know it until you see it. And even once you've seen it, you cannot stop it. And that is what they're walking into on Sunday. Not only is it that, to JP's point, to Dylan's points about the matchups and how everything looked the first time, you could talk about the size of our offensive line as a group versus the lack of size with their defensive, like all of the above, right? Let's talk about Stafford in weather conditions, right? Cold weather, rain. Don't let it snow, man. Don't let it snow on Stafford on Sunday. Stafford, 5.79 yards per attempt in cold weather games this year, ranked 27th out of 39 qualifying quarterbacks. His average depth of target of 4.2 yards ranked ahead of only Drew Lock. In the rain, Stafford also struggled compared to other starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So you not only have the baseline of week 12, the blowout, the inability to stop the run game, the mismatches on the defensive and offensive lines, like so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. You also have the Eagles at home in a favorable condition, in favorable weather for the style of play that they have. So it just seems like everything's adding up. And then I'll even throw in a third condition that just, it gives me a lot more confidence in the Birds, man. Your point, Dylan, people picking the Rams to go into Philadelphia and do this. The Eagles see it too. The way people are talking about Jalen Hurts this week. Jalen sees it too. There is no better version of Jalen Hurts than a week after criticism. Than after a week full of criticism, if that sounds better for you. There's no better version of Jalen Hurts, so it gives me a lot of confidence in him going into this weekend. But especially this unit, man, who just continues to get discredited. You think that defense isn't going to hear everything that's being said right now about this Rams offense and Kyron Williams, the touchdown machine, and Puka Nacua, wide receiver 1, and all that. The Eagles defense hears it. They hear Nakobe Dean's out. They're going to struggle with Burks or Trotter Jr. back there. Yep. They hear all of that. And I love it. I love when people give them something to be motivated by, other than just simply being better than the other team. I love it when they add context like that.
I'll give you one more stat. In the Eagles at home in the divisional round in the history of the franchise, they're 6-0. They average over 25 points per game and allow under 12 points per game. So that's another number. One last number. They're 6.5 point favorites for anyone that hasn't paid attention.
Also, it moved.
I don't. If you're scared, go get a dog. Like, that's all I have for you. Like, because put aside all of the numbers, man. There's one important thing here. To Martian's point, they're light years more talented than the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
That's the part that boggles my mind when people continue to pick against this team.
Yeah.
They are one of the most well-crafted rosters, balanced with studs and stars on both sides of the ball. They have a top 3 to 5 wide receiver. They have the best offensive line in football with the best, most dominant running back behind it this year. They have an all-pro, a first-team all-pro linebacker, a first or second-team all-pro defensive tackle with studs in the secondary. They're fucking loaded. Since week 9, we've been talking about how balanced this team is, and people just don't seem to pick it up. Scotty, I sent you the Twitter thread and screenshots yesterday. They're the number 1 team being talked about again in this light. And honestly, it just makes me smile because, to your point, man, I've never seen a team this loaded with talent be like given a chip to put on their shoulder just from from noise.
Yeah, it is
crazy.
Interesting.
Well, I mean, like, I think a lot of it has to do with the reason why people aren't holding the Eagles to such a high regard is just the passing attack. Because, like, I think when you look at it,
let's talk about it, brother. Get into it.
This is something that everyone's just been talking about, and I do think there is a valid conversation because you look at it, defense. I mean, you guys just nailed it. Like, they're stacked at every level of defense. On offense, it's the best offensive line in football. Probably the best wide receiver duo. You have a tight end who is top 5, arguably. I mean, you saw the play he made last week. Holy crap.
Yeah, when he was standing on the field.
The best running back in the NFL. But then when you look at the quarterback, you talked about his lower half. I mean, who the heck is stopping Jalen Hurts when he runs the ball? He is an absolute leader. Those guys definitely follow him in anywhere he wants to go. Those guys will follow him. But it's just the passing game. Constantly throughout the season, we have been left desiring more. And last week, I do put a little bit blame on Kellen Moore. I just thought the game plan also left a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
But there are just times where Jalen Hurts is holding on to the ball for way too long. And the play's already done. Like, the play's gone, Jalen. You got, like, in this league, at this level, if you're not getting the ball out in 3 seconds, like, unfortunately, it's done. Like, you got to make a decision. You cannot just continue to run the ball when you just feel as if it's not there. I talked about it earlier. If you want to win a Super Bowl, the passing game has to be on. And your quarterbacks have to make some tough throws. Like, yeah, like, everyone wants to talk about defense wins championships, and the Eagles defense can absolutely do that, but this isn't 2000. Like, Trent Dilfer is not winning you a Super Bowl in this day and age of football. Like, Jalen Hurts has to step it up. The thing is that we know he can. Like, he did it this year against Pittsburgh. He did it against Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Like, it's clearly there. But I think this is going to be a great game for Jalen Hurts in this passing attack to just unleash. Because the best matchup in this game, guys, it's going to be that Rams defensive line versus the Eagles offensive line. The Rams defensive line is pretty damn good. But
very good.
We
very
know
good. It's very young.
We know this Eagles offensive line. So to me, it's going to be determining up to that. But obviously, they're going to be able to run the ball because they did it earlier in the year. So that's going to leave things open, Jalen. So hit those guys. Hit them.
No, I agree. There's definitely, when you come away from a game with 143 passing yards and 170 passing yards, and you throw 7 or 8 straight incompletions, I completely understand. I don't think this is the week that you get that, like, revitalization or that that quench that you want, right? Because I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think they're going to be able to bully the shit out of that Rams defensive front. I know what they did to Sam Darnold. They're not going to be able to rush Jalen like that, but they're young, they're fast, they're undersized, and they're going to get bullied and beat off the line of scrimmage repeatedly on Sunday. I don't know if Kellen and Nick and Jay, if they're smart, this isn't the Steelers game where they're a top 3 rushing unit on defense, and you want to prove that you can do this, and you want to show something else. Saquon Barkley could run for 200 yards again in this ballgame, and Jalen could throw for 170, and I will not give a fuck. Ultimately, Parcero, you are correct. When you get to that biggest moment, you're not just going to be able to hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley 32 times against the Kansas City Chiefs and expect it to work and expect to slow down Pat Mahomes and to come away with a win. Jalen in the passing game are going to have to be better, but it's not this week for me. And I'm not trying to disrespect the Rams that much. Kind of am. Pass the Rams if you're out there watching. But I think they get bullied on the line of scrimmage this week.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think with Jalen, it's really tough. It's really tough to, like, measure his performance, especially when they're winning games, right? And somebody, mind you, I was listening to the radio on my ride home from work today, and somebody on the radio said it very well. Yes, teams are going to try to make Jalen beat them, or right. That's the game plan. Like, shut down Saquon, make Jalen beat you through the air. And the question that you're left with after saying that is, when has that worked? When has it worked? It hasn't. It hasn't worked. It doesn't work. They still win. They've lost games this season. It wasn't because of that. So, like, when I look at it from that standpoint, I look at the turnovers early on in the season. I do wonder, and I'm not disagreeing. It's one of my biggest annoyances with this team is when they take sacks or the runs on 3rd and long, like just handing it off. Like, come on, let's step into 2025. Let's throw the ball a little bit. Like, I do feel you. I get frustrated with it. But I do wonder on the other sides of those risks, because that's what it is. What we want him to do on 3rd and 13 or 3rd and 19 is throw the ball down the field to A.J. Brown and get a first down. Get yards, right? And I do get that. But what happens when he throws that interception because he takes that risk? And I think that is the other side. And the key here is just finding the balance. Like, you can't have such extremes to JP's point. I do agree with that. And I do think it was an extreme against Green Bay. When you talk about 130 passing yards, that is an extreme, like an extreme low, right? For passing yards. It is really low. It's a really, you didn't have to do much through the air if you're coming out with that amount of yards. So I do get it. I do think they have to be better. I do think they have to be just a little bit better each week. I do agree with you, Dylan. I don't think that this week is the week where we see like Jalen go for 250, right? Like I don't think that he's going to need to do that. Because the Eagles should be able to run the football here, whether it's with him, whether it's with Saquon. I do think our offensive line should be able to bully their defensive line because they do it to everyone, man. They do it to everyone. So I do think they'll do it to the undersized Rams defensive line. Very good defensive line, depending on the matchup.
Right. I think
is how I feel about that.
I think
that
to wrap it up and throw it back Parcero's way is like, and I know you're not doing that, Parcero, and I'm just not going to complain about it. It's definitely something you can talk about, something you can worry about. I'm not one of those people that's going to complain about it until I see it bite them, because to Scotty's point, in the first matchup, he threw the ball 22 times against the Rams. He's 15 to 22 for 179 yards, 1 passing touchdown, no turnovers. I guarantee you they could beat the Rams by 16, but if Jalen throws for 170 passing yards, you're still going to hear people complain. And I just want to know, like, what generation we live in. The Eagles will be going to the NFC Championship game. They could win both games by double-digit points. And the conversation will be more about the quarterback throwing.
Maybe they won't.
Yards.
Maybe they.
I mean, so like for me, like it's not something that like frustrates me. Like I hear with the fan base too. Like you see him crossing broad. Like the dude comes up to Kyle and he's like, "Jalen's not the answer," and it's like, what? Did you see Jalen's record since he's arrived in the NFL? Like, it's pretty darn good. My only thing is, like, I think that this style of football that they've been playing, this smash mouth football, obviously defense first and then running the ball with Saquon, I think it could get them through the NFC gauntlet. But when you guys look at the AFC and you look at some of the top teams in the AFC, I mean, like some of those teams, like you may, if you're getting a Super Bowl, you may get in another shootout there.
Well, they already beat the Ravens this year.
And yes, but for me, it's all about consistency. And it's not like the thing is too, Dylan and Scotty, like it's not even about like the volume. Like I hear the other thing I hear is about the attempts. Like you can't win a Super Bowl with 19, 20 attempts. Like it's not even about that. To me, it's about the quality of it, right? Like short yard, like the crossing routes, the pass with Dallas Goedert, although a great run by him, like it was a short pattern. It's all about the clutch throws for me. Jalen, I talked about it. Everything he does really well, but that's just like the one thing we still kind of have to get over the hump with him. And obviously, we have a couple more games here left to see what he does. Man.
It's tough for me because some of it seems like ancient history. Obviously, you're going back all the way 2 years to 2022 when you bring up the Mahomes Super Bowl, because we saw him make those throws there. And I know that's a while ago, but then you go and you have the Bills, who are that threat out in the AFC, and he won in overtime at home against Josh Allen last year and was superhuman. Then you get to this year, and it's just like I hear what you're saying. I think they've just established themselves and their identity so well this year that it can win you a Super Bowl. Now, like you said, he's going to have to make timely throws, but they walked into Baltimore earlier in the year. Jalen Hurts had 118 passing yards. Scotty, you just thought like this was the low of the lows. He threw for 118 in Baltimore. That was the low of the lows. They beat up the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in this football game.
Yeah.
Saquon ran for 107. I'm not scoffing at that. I'm not just blowing that off, but that's probably one of Saquon's lower totals on the year in a game. Saquon Barkley for 107, Jalen Hurts for 118, and this team went into Baltimore and beat them up physically. That's one of those teams left. He beat Josh Allen last year. I know, like it's comparing apples and oranges when it feels that long ago. But I just feel like we keep questioning it, and he's shown us. And he's shown us 2 years ago, and he's shown us last year, and then people question it this year after the Carolina game. And then he did what he did against Pittsburgh, and you think that would silence it, and then they win a playoff game, and it's like now we're talking about it again. And we have guys like LaShawn McCoy talking about if Tanner McKee or Kenny Pickett play in this game, we beat the shit out of the Green Bay Packers.
Dude, the national media was insane last 2 weeks. Insane.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And I think like what you just hinted at, Dylan, is like when you have 2,000-yard rushing Saquon, that is an outlier of any other season that we've ever seen, right? Like obviously not outlier of other 2,000-yard rushers. I don't mean it that way, but what I'm trying to say is like when you have somebody who's capable of that, your identity is going to shift a whole lot. I don't think the Eagles are going to be this next year. I don't think Saquon's going for 2K. I don't think he's even going to get 1,700. I just don't think his body is going to be able to withstand like that. That's ridiculous, right? So I think our identity will shift a little bit more like back towards the passing game. I don't think AJ and Smitty are going to be content with another season like this of, lacking of throwing the ball. But maybe I do think for one season, you have this opportunity, you have this identity, you have this group of offensive linemen, you have Saquon, you have this group. And I guess at this point, man, I have to see someone shut down their rushing attack to believe it. Like I have to see it. I have to see it to believe it because I haven't seen it.
If we lose a game in this postseason because they get out from under what they do best, and we fall short because we threw the ball 33 times and Saquon only ran it 18 times, I'm going to be fucking pissed. And I think I'll throw this back at you guys. I'm going to view, I'll keep it to the Chiefs, but you could argue Lamar / Josh Allen as well. I'll look at it through the Dodgers lens when we're talking about the Phillies coming up this season. You're not going to outslug the Dodgers. No matter what you think about Jalen Hurts, whether you are more of pro Jalen Hurts or you are more this guy, needs to be much better Jalen Hurts, whatever your views on him are, and I know he kind of outplayed, I get that. You're not going to out Mahomes. Mm-mm. You might not outplay Lamar. You might not outplay Josh. How can you be different? And I think that's what the Eagles have established all year long with their defense, with their rushing attack, with their physicality, and then the ability for A.J. Brown to go for 150 yards, the ability for Devontae Smith to catch 2 touchdowns, the ability for Dallas Goedert to stiff arm someone into hell and run in a 22-yard catch and touch run. That's what I think they have to continue to base it off of.
Dude, if the Eagles, I'm going to knock on wood right now. If the Eagles win the Super Bowl, they're going to turn this league upside down. Because if you guys think about how teams have been constructing their squads over the past couple of years, it's all about the prolific passing attack. This Eagles team it's retro. This is like 90s, 2000s football. You run the ball first, you have a really good defense, and then your quarterback makes enough plays, and then you win the Vince Lombardi Trophy. And so, if the Eagles do it, they're going to turn some heads around.
Yeah, and I think to Scotty's point, man, when he's saying this is different, not by Eric Dickerson standards or Derrick Henry a few years ago standards, rushing for 2,000, he's saying, man, forever, basically, the Eagles have ran the ball well behind a dominant offensive line. Let's just take it back the last 2 years. They've had back-to-back 1,000-plus yard rushers. You've said the Eagles' identity is running the ball. They run the ball really well. This is 2 tiers, 3 tiers above that. Yeah. You're going to have to stop it in order for me to stop doing it on this Super Bowl run.
Because it like for example, we're getting into complete mythological type of shit right now. But like put Saquon on the Super Bowl team against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in 2022. I know it's completely irrelevant. It does not matter. But think about it. Maybe you don't get into a shootout if you're able to run the ball consistently and chew up time of possession and keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. Like when I look at this roster and their makeup right now, I think about the Chiefs because I do think the Chiefs are going to make it back to the Super Bowl. I hate to tell everyone. I do think they're going to make it back to the Super Bowl. And if they do, I think this is how you beat Patrick Mahomes. You keep the ball out of his hands. And I think this Eagles team is the best built to do that.
And they didn't have this
every
defense.
team that has gone up against Patrick Mahomes, quite honestly. Because even the San Fran unit last year with CMC, they didn't run the ball like we run the ball. CMC had a great year, all-purpose yards. He didn't have a historic rushing year. So it's even different in that facet. I do think the matchup that we would have to air it out a little bit. It's Detroit. I think that is the one. If we play them, I think that's a game where Jalen Hurts might have to go out there. And it's not to say Saquon's not going to be effective. The Lions do have a top 5 rush defense. They are able to score points. They're able to put up 7s. So that could be a matchup where I think it would pull Jalen and this offense. Maybe, I don't want to say out of their comfort zone because he can do it, man. We've seen it already this season. But it pulls them out of their identity, I guess you could say a little bit.
Well, real quick with the offense here. Has everyone read Chapter 1 of Excellence already? Are we all caught up here?
Mine didn't get shipped yet. I didn't.
Mine's from back order, man. Like 53 million people ordered it and shit.
That was hilarious. But in all seriousness, guys, like, where are we at with AJ? Like, so if AJ continues to not get as many targets, the receptions aren't there. Are we going to get a little bit of a diva here? Dude,
we already have a diva, but I can live. I can live with having the divas of all divas if I'm going.
I love the dude.
3 years and coming away.
I love the dude
with a Super Bowl ring. The thing about last week, man, it was obviously very like crazy to see, but they just never shown it before. There are screenshots of him reading on the sideline this year in games where he's had 110 yards and a touchdown. So like seeing that, like kind of put it to like, I was like, it's a nothing burger for me, but it like, you know, you do have the history of him openly, publicly being frustrated, but then spinning it around as if the media and the fan base made it a story. No, you know what you're doing a little bit.
You did that.
The words you're choosing to spill right here. But the fact, like, I saw a picture of him in the Washington game where he had like 11 catches on 15 targets for like 119 yards and a touchdown, and he was reading in the middle of the game, and I was like, well, that's all I needed to see to kind of put that to bed. But to answer your question, we have a diva. Like I think we all know. I
think if it like extended out of this season, if we are in next season and just throwing the ball, 20 times a game, and he's getting, some games 10 targets, some games 1-2 targets, right? Like, yeah, I think over time it could turn into something, and maybe you have to like do something about it. But I think everybody understands the assignment. Like, I think everybody understands the identity. In the heat of the moment, sure, I think he might act up again. I don't know. Like, if he's not getting the ball and things aren't going well, he might act up again. But I think once you get out of that heat of the moment, they're so together as a team.
Yeah.
The way he interacts with his teammates, like the videos that we do see, unless that is all completely like a show.
No, I saw the one with him,
and Saquon and all of that. Like,
that one.
He's a team guy. He does seem like a team guy. He seems like he expresses himself. He is a diva. Like, he is a wide receiver 1. Like, that is what we have on our hands right now. And we just don't have him that often. I think that's why it's a bigger deal here. But, yeah, AJ, I think will be fine in my book. Maybe down the line as he gets a little older, you do have some. I don't even want to think about that. I'm thinking about right now. I'm thinking about what we're keeping.
Have you guys seen how, like, since Mike Vrabel signed with the Patriots, like, how many, like, Patriots, like, accounts and radio stations, like,
that's a sign.
They just think that AJ Brown's available in trade talks this offseason.
Wants to go play for a defensive
They, like,
coach.
asked Mike Vrabel about it already on a show, and he was like, "Oh, I'd love to see his growth. Like, we have a really good relationship." And that was it. But I'm like, dude, like,
that's cool.
AJ Brown's trying to make a Super Bowl run. Just signed a 4-year extension, and you guys think because you signed his former head
trade him to New England.
Easily the worst trade of the 2020 so far. Easy.
Oh, that was another thing. What did we trade for him? Like, we traded our first round pick, wasn't it? Like the 14th.
Traylon Burks ended up being Traylon Burks and maybe some later draft comp.
Yeah, I think it was like the 14th overall pick for AJ Brown, and it was like this Patriots account, which, mind you, has like 63,000 followers. It's like a very respected like publication up in Foxborough, and it was like who says no? And it was the Patriots offering us their second round pick straight up for AJ Brown. And then they commented and it was like, keep in mind, this is like the start of the second round. So really it's a late first rounder. And I'm like, are you on crack, bro? Like, seriously.
Let's just trade our wide receiver 1 for a second round pick. Like,
Drake May, brother. Drake May is going to sling the rock.
The 14th pick that they got for AJ ended up turning into Traylon Burks, is what I was saying. The wide receiver.
I hope they go through 20 years of just misery. They have
right. They deserve it.
Fellas, we've kind of gotten off. We've gotten a little astray here. Talking about this Eagles-Rams matchup. Let's reel it back to the task at hand. All right. I really don't like, if you guys have any ideas, any segments, guys in the comments, throw one out there. I'm not even sure before we get into like the pregame show Sunday, Scotty, what to say, because I'm wishing Pastor Rems just showed up in the comment section so I could have a little bit of fun. I have a -% chance of worry in my body right now about this matchup. 0. There's nothing in it's worse than last week, dude. It is.
If we're gonna play these hypotheticals, all right. If
3
we're
p.m.
realistically play these hypotheticals, the Rams do have a Super Bowl winning coach who's still pretty darn.
Super Bowl
Matt Stafford may have something left in that tank, and he's got a bevy of weapons that he can throw.
Does.
And listen, we anything can happen on a Sunday, right? And that Rams attack could definitely get some points, and who knows? I like, to me, like, I'm even like thinking about it in my head. Like, okay, the Rams put up some points. Like, there's just no way that defense is just stopping our offense. Like, I just don't see how they could stop if they somehow, some way stop Saquon Barkley. Like, I have to believe that with AJ, Devontae, and Dallas Goedert, that'd be enough to get the win. It's just really hard when you play it out in your mind to see how the Rams can kind of win this game. It's really tough.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's what we've watched all season, man. Like, I think the people that are saying this about the Rams potentially beating the Eagles, it's not even the Rams fans, man. Like, obviously, Pastor Rams comes in here and talks a little stuff, but like, if you really clue into what this Eagles team is, man, it shouldn't create any doubt in your mind. Now, obviously, you never know what's going to happen. Like, the wildest shit could happen, right? I do think, to your point, maybe I would be a little bit more nervous if it wasn't out in the conditions against the best rushing attack in the NFL. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it is kind of like what you guys said. It's like it all just kind of piles up to where, like, we always just end up back at the starting point. Because I do want to ask you guys, like, what are you most concerned about? If you have concerns going into the game, like if you had to pick one thing about the Rams that concerns you, but it always comes back to the run game of the Eagles in stopping it. And the answer to that is it's not going to happen, not by this team. And so from there, it's like the conversation ends. Like, you don't like, okay, so if they don't stop the run, then they're not going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Like, but let me ask you guys, like, for the sake of the matchup, and like, not to disrespect them, because we are disrespecting them at this point. Like, they're in the divisional round of the postseason. Like, they are a good football team.
Yeah, great.
They're a good football team in the NFL. Like,
Yeah.
Just not a great matchup, man. It's not a great matchup for them. That's what it comes down to for me at the end of the day. If I had to pick a concern,
it feels like there's only one.
It would be Matthew Stafford. Like, it would
that
be
passing game in general.
It would be Matthew Stafford in the passing game, and like, I guess the fact that he spreads the ball around. Like, Dylan's man Davis Allen caught a tutty last game, and like, Demarcus Robinson might catch a tutty, or Cooper Kupp, and Kyron Williams catches it out of the backfield.
Yeah.
So like Stafford, spreading the ball around, experience, so on and so forth.
Here's what I would say.
The weather.
There's two things here for me. Yes, if you have to pick something, if a gun to my head, what am I picking? It is Matthew Stafford, it is Cooper Kupp, it is Puka Nacua. It is the threat of that passing game. There's two key big issues here with the argument, people. A, like I said to start the show, the unknown leaves a lot to be desired and discussed and talked about. If the Eagles didn't line that shit up, Martian, against these dudes earlier in the year on the road in a dome, I'd have some questions. What's it look like? How do you line up? What's it look like against Cooper, et cetera? No, we did that already. I know some of that answer. I know that puzzle, okay? The other thing is, well, was that just one time, right? Did the Eagles that night just have a very good game against that crew? Matthew Stafford threw 20 passing touchdowns this year. That offense that Parcero brought up this point, that, everyone's afraid of it because it's high flying and they beat the shit out of the Vikings. Outside of one game against the Buffalo Bills, they haven't scored more than 21 points in a win. They scored 25 as the most, and they lost to Seattle at home to end the season. They didn't play their starters in that game, and we know that. So that doesn't even count.
Yeah.
So that this mythical fucking high flying, besides names on the paper, what we remember them to be, Puka from last year, Stafford and Kupp, the record breaking year, the Super Bowl from a couple of years ago, that's not happening this year. He threw 20 total passing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts threw 18 and he missed a couple games. And people say Jalen Hurts can't throw the football like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And this dude threw 20 in more games played.
And it starts once again, man. You saw it with the Packers, and that game gave me reassurance, man, because they start that game with Oren Burks popping kick returner in the mouth. Keyshawn Nix, he said, "Targeting you targeting me." It's like, let's see how the Rams act when they get popped in the mouth, because it's going to happen. They're going to get popped in the mouth. Jordan Mailata is going to drive Jared Verse into the ground. Lane Johnson's going to drive Jared Verse into the ground, whichever side he wants to line up on. Pastor Rams, if you're out there, I know that hurts your feelings, but it's going to happen. They're going to get punched in the mouth, and it's not the fact that you get punched in the mouth. That's not what knocks you out, per se. The punch in the mouth knocks you out, but, it's how you respond to the punch in the mouth, right? Not everybody gets knocked out by the punch in the mouth. The Green Bay Packers got knocked the fuck out.
I was going to say the same exact thing, Scott.
They got knocked the fuck out. And I'm wondering what's going to happen with the Rams. What happens when Kyron Williams gets lit up in the backfield?
They're not
going to pop that ball out?
Man.
You going to pop that ball out?
What? 37-20 is what happens. Because I've already seen it. And again, it's not to say things can't change. When I say I have a 0%, nervousness inside of me right now, that's not to say in 60 minutes in a winner go home that it is impossible for the LA Rams to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. What I'm telling you is, if you are a Rams fan out there, if you are an Eagles doubter out there, you can't give me anything tangible. You can't give me any numbers. You can't give me eye test. You can't give me matchups. You can't give me anything to sway my opinion or make me believe that you believe what you're saying is true. There are former players, bro, that are paid millions of dollars from popular networks coming out of the woodwork yesterday and today, talking about this Rams team like they are on some kind of fucking astronomical run heading into the postseason. And it blows my mind, because you guys are supposed to be better. You're supposed to be smarter.
Because how much of this ascension this past week in the wild card round of playoffs is just Sam Darnold shitting the bed.
Yeah, you think? Wow, that's a crazy. Dan, don't tell Dan Orlovsky because
don't tell Dan.
It wasn't Sam Darnold's fault.
And the Vikings played like crap the last month of the year, man.
Yeah. He showed his true colors.
Did you guys hear the clip of the Minnesota Vikings radio call on that one sack he takes? Oh, you're lying.
Nah, I didn't see it.
Fuck, I don't think I have my Twitter logged in on here.
Oh, dude.
Hold on. I would share it right now, bro. It's the one where he holds on to the ball for way too long. And you know how, like, even if you are, hold on, I'm going to try to sign in real quick.
Sam
Scotty, take over for a second.
Oh, he just muted himself too.
Because literally, I was about to cough, but I can save it. Let me ask you this, Parcero, while Dylan gets logged into X. I heard it on the radio. If you had to extend Nick Sirianni right now, would you do it? Contract extension. Why or why not?
I mean, like, how do you not? He's was it like the second highest winning percentage in Eagles history, or the highest winning percentage in Eagles history? Like, he hasn't had a losing season. He's only made the playoffs. He's made a Super Bowl. I mean, darn, he's knock on wood again. Hopefully he's on his way to another Super Bowl. He's done a lot of things that frustrate us. Like the beginning of the year with the play calling and just game management, like it was super frustrating. But the dude knows how to lead men, and I think you have to extend him, man. Here's the call.
Here's the call. I promise you will not be hearing Merrill Reese say this. Ready?
Him, Aaron Jones, Addison in motion to the right. Two receivers left. Rams blitz. Darnold gets away from it. Steps up in the pocket. He's holding it too long. Just run. Throw it, man. Just run. Just throw it, man. He's sacked for a fifth time. All he's got to do is pull that thing down and run.
Wow, dude. Darnold, what was that?
He's coaching him. I feel the way that man was holding the goddamn ball.
Do you think that's happening this Sunday?
Yeah, because I'm watching that, and I'm like, damn, I think Jalen holds the ball.
Yeah, but Jalen would have ran for it and got a couple yards. Darnold, who he thought he was, what he was doing, but that wasn't it.
Darnold. So my point is, if you are someone that is looking at this matchup and you were trying to take what the Rams did well, and it's not to take everything off the table from what they did well. They got those 9 sacks. Their defense forced the turnover. Their offense did play well. Like they played a very, very good football game in a big moment. Congrats to them. We know what the Eagles offensive line is. We've already seen it. You're not going to be able to do that. And I just bro, even though those guys call the game for that team, they follow that team. I'm sure they are fans of that team. They're close with the player, everything. You're still supposed to remain somewhat unbiased a little bit. Like you're not supposed to take your foot. Like imagine like Tom McCarthy and John Kruk on a Phillies call. Like on one of the days, the Phillies are just chasing everything in a playoff game. Imagine like Tom McCarthy losing his mind after Nick Castellanos swings and chases.
You can't swing at that, man.
You swing at ghosts, man.
Like, that's how bad Sam Darnold and the Vikings offense was, that their own radio personalities lost their fucking minds. You have no chance of that happening this Sunday. You might find 1 or 2 plays where Jalen holds the ball and takes a sack that he shouldn't take. That's all that's going to happen. And then if he protects the football the rest of the game, that's it. That's it.
I think
saying, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to go back to what you were saying, actually, Scotty. Like, I just think that the minute the Eagles come out with that same intensity they did against the Packers, I just don't know how the Rams are just going to bounce back to that. Like, the thing is I can very well see Jalen scrambling a little bit, but he's going to be able to get those yards. I could very well see Matthew Stafford in that passing attack put up some yards. But are they going to be able to score? Like, it's just way too much. The Eagles right now are just way too much for the Rams. And it's just whatever way you kind of look at it.
And I'll double off that to throw it back to Scotty, man. The fact that the Eagles didn't play even B-plus football last week altogether should be a worry for should be a concern if you're coming into this game, because it's going to take an A+, damn near perfect game from the Rams. They cannot turn the football over. They're going to have to keep time of possession intact. They're going to have to find ways to turn the Eagles over and create extra possessions. They're going to have to cash in on sevens. They're going to have to stop the run and stop AJ. They're going to have to play A++ football. And the Eagles offense didn't even play B football last game. And you're just not going to have that 2 weeks in a row with the game on the line.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, man, that I'm sitting here thinking about that just makes me super intrigued if it happens in this postseason, which, I mean, maybe it will. If we get to where we want to get to, it probably will happen. But what happens when the Eagles are pushed? Excuse me. What happens when the Eagles pushed into desperation mode? What do the Eagles in desperation mode look like? AJ Brown, shots down the field to AJ, trying to keep up, whatever the case may be, right? Because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, all right, let's just say the Rams, they come out with their A+ game, right? And A+ means you're gonna have to push it to. Yeah, I like that, man. But but they're gonna have to come out. They're gonna have to have their A+ game, and what that A+ game is gonna call for is 30. 35 plus points. It's going to take an effort like they had against Buffalo, where they scored 40 plus points. Maybe not 40 plus. Maybe it's just 30 plus, 35 plus. I don't know of teams that are just going out here scoring 30 points on this defense, man. I do wonder, man. I do wonder if the Rams could magically push the Eagles into a close game in the second half. What does it even look like? I would love to see us at that point go into desperation mode and see those guys play with that type of urgency, because they already play with a desperate urgency from the jump of the game. That's why they set the tone at the beginning of the Green Bay game. They want it. They want to win. Yeah. That is the biggest thing with this team right now that I don't think the national media can get a grasp on.
You know what?
They just see the Eagles. They see 14 wins. They see last season with Sirianni. They see the season before. They see the meltdown last year. They see AJ drama. Yeah. They see Jalen not throwing the football. But they don't see everything else, all of it together, the way the guys stick up for one another, the way they interact with one another. They want to win.
Out there, man. The Eagles have not lost a football game this season healthy. We have not witnessed. Okay. We have not witnessed the Philadelphia Eagles lose the football game this season with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Lane Johnson healthy. They lost in week 3 to Tampa Bay. No AJ Brown, no Lane Johnson, no Devontae Smith. Yeah. You and me and Parcero were playing wide receiver. They lost to the Commanders. Jalen Hurts got taken out after the second series, and they were out 14-0. We talked about that ad nauseum. They don't lose that football game if Jalen Hurts never gets hurt. And then you had the other game in which, why am I drawing a blank? Oh, the Falcons, no AJ Brown.
Yeah.
And in 2 of those games, Scotty, I only brought this up because you mentioned giving up 30 points. The Eagles have given up 30-plus points 2 times this year. They're both losses, and in both of those losses, they were nowhere near fully healthy. Jalen Hurts was not there to finish the game, and then it was the Bucs game. That's the only time this defense has had a letdown like that this year, and it ain't coming in January in the snow against the Rams.
No.
When they're not healthy, they can't control the time of possession. It seems as simple as that to me.
Yeah,
I would have to go in and look at time of possession stats from those games, but it sounds like they didn't control time of possession.
And oh, by the way, guys, we got a pass rush now. Come on, man. Nolan, Reggie, White, Smith. Are you kidding me?
That defense looks a whole lot different, especially from those first 2 losses.
2 losses,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Cooper DeJean wasn't playing football yet.
That's true. In all seriousness, like Nolan taking these strides is humongous, guys, because obviously Bryce Huff was not giving you anything. You can't always rely on Josh Sweat. And like Jalen Carter was a little quiet last week. Dude, I expect him to destroy the interior of the Rams offensive line.
That's a great point. Yeah,
dude,
that's a great point.
I'll say this, man.
He needs a signature playoff game.
it's a big playoff game for a big moment for Jalen Carter, but either Nolan Smith or Josh Sweat could have a week this week, because if I recall, that last matchup is when BG got hurt, but BG was having himself a night off the edge in this game.
Yeah.
I think he had like 2.5 sacks in this game, might have forced that opening fumble. He did a couple things big. And I'm just thinking on the edge of that offensive line, if Nolan Smith gets one-on-one opportunities, or if Josh Sweat gets one-on-one opportunities, or whatever the case may be, you can find a way to feast at that. So
this had to be one of our better games getting after the quarterback, quite honestly, because I'm looking at the numbers, man. 11 QB hits, 5 sacks. You had Brandon Graham, as you mentioned, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass deflection, 3 QB hits. You had Milton Williams with 2 sacks in this game, 3 QB hits. So he had a monster game. So this had to be one of our better games getting after the quarterback and dominating an offensive line. Just to the point, like the point of the show here. Just adding further context. I did want to ask you guys, just from a schematic standpoint, I guess, and maybe you don't even care, but Oren Burks, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., would you rather go with Oren Burks, who you saw last week? We saw him maybe once or twice in the regular season starting, or maybe, in place of somebody at certain points. Or would you go with kind of a wild card in Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? He's a rookie, but maybe he can. We just don't know. You know what I mean? Maybe he can perform better.
I'll throw it to Parcero, but I think there's room for both of them to get on the field.
That's a great point. Yeah.
If you're giving me the Burks or the Trotter Jr. only options, that's tough. I'm gonna go with Trotter Jr. only because the wild card factor of the playoffs, like you constantly see in all sports, like that one player that you barely saw in the regular season has like a ridiculous performance here. And I think that especially, I think he's got a little more speed than Burks, so I think that would definitely help him out as well. But I mean, Burks throughout the year. Give me Nicholas Morrow. Oh, Nick, I can't believe he's still around, man. Practice squad, baby.
Anthony Morrow.
Burks definitely, listen, he can lay the hat, and he's also made a name for himself as the season's gone on. He's made himself special on special teams. But obviously, look, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., everyone I think saw him in college, but I think more so people see the name and they're thinking of his father.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking more so because of the matchup and just because of the wild card factor. So give me Trotter Jr. Give me a little baby axe.
I don't hate it, man. Only because it's not like Oren Burks is providing a ceiling or some sort of upside.
Yeah.
And I don't even know that he's providing like a high. He's not providing like a high floor or less risk or something. The only thing you have to worry about is Trotter. Not a lot of regular season action. A rookie, kind of a third string guy. If he gets put in vulnerable spots, right? If Sean McVay finds ways to get him out in coverage, and then it's a chess match though between Vic Fangio, and then I have to give Fangio the edge, right? I have to give Fangio the benefit of the doubt that he's not going to allow 54 to get put in disadvantageous spots, right? So I'm fine with it. I think there's room for both of them to see the field, to be honest, though.
Because to your point, Dylan, when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, who's going to get Trotter into the right place on defense, right? Like you sit here and you think it would probably be Nakobe Dean, like the leader of the defense, but Zach Bond, he's going to have to step up in other areas now, right? Like I think that's something that kind of got undersold. Zach Bond is a great on the field talent. He's out there balling, leading the way with his play. He's going to have to do a little bit more leading in other facets in this game, man. With no Nakobe out there, he's going to have to get
he's
whether it's Burks or Trotter. He's going to have to get those guys in the right spots. So big game from Zach Bond. But I do feel that on Trotter Jr. And the only reason I brought that up is because Vic Fangio was asked about it, and he mentioned, he's like, this might be the game Trotter, sees the field. Like he said exactly what you guys said. You go from not seeing the field at all at one point to welcome to the NFL. And this might be that moment for him, man. So it will be interesting. That was the other thing I wanted to ask you guys. I'm not going to ask it at this point because we got the vibe of the game from each of us. We all feel pretty much the same way. But is there any like worry? And I don't mean as far as losing, but just Sean McVay versus Nick Sirianni.
No. What's Nick against McVay? 2-0?
No. Is he? Yeah, he is 2-0 against him, isn't he? Yeah.
Both really good coaches, man. There's one thing to be concerned about we didn't talk about. Guys, I'm concerned about the kicking. I'm concerned about Elliott, bro. Dude has not looked good all season long.
Hit his field goals last game, but missed the extra point.
Missed an extra point, man. Yeah. What's up? Why? Just hit them all, man. Like, come on.
Look,
we're locked in. We're in the postseason. We're locked in.
Hey, man. We're talking about weather. We're talking about cold. We're talking about snow. We might have to get the ball into the end zone this week because I don't know if I'm having Jake going out there and plant that foot and let one boot a couple times from 40 meters. So.
No, I can't trust him, man. It sucks, dude. No, he was always a safety blanket every year.
Against the Chiefs specifically, that worries me a lot. Yeah. Like if we were to get to the Super Bowl, is Dylan froze or am I froze?
No, Dylan's definitely froze.
Like
I hate that feeling.
I'm just curious here, but no, I do wonder, like as we get down the stretch, if we get into a tight game with a team like Kansas City, I do think Jake Elliott could really play a big part. But all that being said, you never know when you're going to be in a close game. So to your point, yeah, definitely. If I had to like list out worries or concerns for the team, I think I would put Jake Elliott at the top. Quite honestly, I think he would be number one. I think to your point earlier in the show, number two would probably be the passing game. But I think rather than that being a concern, it just speaks more to my confidence in the team as a whole. So I don't know with that, man. But the Chiefs worry me with Jake Elliott. The reason I don't say the Lions, if we were not trying to get ahead of this game or anything, but if we were to play the Lions, I just feel like that's a team you have to score sevens against. So if you miss a three here or there, I don't think it's going to be like the end of the world. I think you're going to have to score sevens regardless in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, like the Lions are the one team I think they match up very well against us. So because, like, obviously they're stacked in a lot of positions too, but they are really physical. We got Dylan back.
Yeah, boys.
Always fun getting frozen. It's always the best.
Dude. If it happens one more time, I'm just gonna let you
Here we go. It's this thing where I can't see Dylan, but he's on the screen, right?
Yeah.
He's there. You can't see
All
him.
right. Whoa, this is different. He popped up. He just popped up because like I'm watching the show back on my phone, obviously, just to see what it looks like. And I see Dylan on the screen, but he's not on my screen here in front of me. So that's happened before, Parcero. I know you haven't been on the show in a while. That happens.
It's going good, man. If it happens one more time, I'm just gonna let you boys wrap it up. But an hour and you think you're in the clear.
I don't know if you caught what I said. So what I had said right when you were cutting out was I don't know if the Jake Elliott thing, like where that comes in to worry me is if we were to match up with a team like the Chiefs. Where you're destined to have a game-ending situation that may rely on a kicker versus a team like Detroit, for example, where you need to score sevens.
Yeah. Listen, I've been confident all playoff run so far about like our opponents and the team, etc. I don't care if we're playing am I frozen again?
No, you're good. You're good, bro. Just laughing at the comments.
I don't care if we're playing the Texans or the Chiefs. If we get to the Super Bowl and it comes down to a Jake Elliott field goal, either to end it or to give us, whatever, with a minute left, whatever. I will cry, shit, throw up all at the same time. As a 27-year-old man at the time, I will bawl my eyes out while I shit my pants if Jake Elliott has to kick with the game on the line to walk off the Super Bowl. And I've been as confident and easygoing as can be to start this playoff run. So if you're watching the Super Bowl with me, clear the room if it comes down to that.
I hope it does not come down to that, man.
No. I've
nerve-wracking.
Throw up if that happens.
Dude, he was Mr. Clutch.
Because it doesn't matter the distance.
No.
It doesn't matter the conditions.
No, I just watched him whip a fucking extra point last week.
Yeah, it was bad, dude.
I'm curious. I would have to go back through the games. I'm pretty sure he's missed a kick in a dome this year because I looked at it and I was like, what the fuck?
I think he missed against New Orleans. But that's the game that, like, Nick wasn't letting him kick, and then he threw him out there for, like, the 57-yarder, and then he missed the 57-yarder.
All right. That's fair-ish.
But maybe the reason Nick wasn't letting him kick. Let me ask you this scenario to kind of walk off the show here. All right. Yeah. Jake Elliott, Eagles down. I mean, obviously we know which one we're going to pick, but still. Eagles down 1. Jake Elliott from 38 yards out. 3 seconds left on the clock. Winner go home. Or Eagles tie the game as time expires. Jake Elliott extra point to walk it off for a win. But if he missed, we're going to... How we feeling between the two scenarios? Because one, you're going to overtime. One, you're rolling the dice of going home. But my point is, I'm not confident in him in either scenario.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it sounds like two terrible situations, but at the end of the day, like, it's just in this playoff situation where we all know kicks are even more important. It could be the difference of your season ending or continuing on, and I just don't trust the guy that is kicking it right now. And it's crazy. We're talking about the kicker, the one guy that really doesn't get on the field a lot, but this is what it's coming down to.
I need that.
The good thing is we have one of the maybe 3 or 4 teams in the NFL that is very well built to deal with it. Score 7s, don't rely on 3s. We're gonna be all good.
Very true.
I'm just kidding. That is a horrible way to go through the postseason. Like, you're gonna have to take 3s at some point. We just need Jake Elliott to lock the fuck in. To the one comment out, picking up someone where the problem is you're not gonna find someone on the street that you trust more than Jake Elliott either. So you just have to hope the guy that was in us in the Super Bowl with us turns it around, locks in, gets ready, and gets us to the promised land.
Figures it out. All right, boys. An hour and 7 minutes. I'm trying not to glitch again. Nobody is nervous as of Wednesday night. We'll reconvene Sunday on game day. Parcero, man, if you're around, feel free to join us. Probably like late Sunday morning. We'll figure it out. So Eagles pregame. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to check us out on Twitter at DSM_media. Follow. Check out the link tree. Check out the YouTube. Subscribe, like, share, whatever you got to do. Help yourself out. Help us out. Follow my man Parcero on Twitter at Parcero Philly.
It's right there.
TikTok, man, up in the air. Fill me in real quick. You're on TikTok. Give the people you're at. But are we surviving, or is TikTok going bye-bye here in the United States?
Great question. I do not know what's going to happen. Fingers crossed, knocking on wood, praying all that we continue on with the TikTok. But yeah, El Parcero Philly, if you guys want. El Parcero Philly Sports on there. You guys can make sure you follow me. If not, we'll see what happens. Instagram is everything's El Parcero Philly for the most part. But guys, I want to thank you both for having me on. This is my first podcast since the layoffs over at All City. And just to kind of get you guys informed of what's been going on with me personally, my mental health was kind of in shits after the news, and my confidence was kind of shot. And as time has gone on since that news came down, I've been able to slowly get it back. And for you guys to allow me to come on the podcast, my first time being on a podcast, means the world to me. And it does a lot for my confidence. So I want to thank you both. You guys have always been nothing but great friends to me, and I thank you guys for that. And if you guys are watching this for the first time, make sure you guys subscribe. These guys are putting out really good content for all the Philly sports fans in general, and it's a good watch. It's easy, it's fun. You might get Dylan glitching out a little bit, but it's okay. He always comes back.
It happens to me too.
This man said allow him to come on the podcast. Brother, You come
You're
on the
welcome
fucking
anytime,
podcast
man.
I appreciate
whenever
that.
you want. I knew we'd find Brian in the comments at some point. Of course, you wait.
Welcome, Brian. Regardless,
this shit.
it's still. Hey, Brian. Can we get a Go Birds? Like,
no shocker. Brian's balls are in his stomach.
Can Brian give us a Go Birds for once?
The Rams.
You don't have to say nothing about Jalen Hurts, like anything positive. You can just say Go Birds.
Number one defense about to get shredded by 20 passing touchdown Matthew Stafford. Brian, one of these for you tonight.
Welcome to the show, Brian.
See you.
We all love you here, Brian.
Taylor McKee is not starting. Peace out, everybody.
Go Birds, Brian.
Go Birds.